Anybody can give up. That is easy, right? But also, I didn't give myself that option. So there is no plan B. There is no giving up. I didn't give myself an option. I'm not going to sit here and brag about that I was the strongest guy. I'm human. You know how many times I looked at myself and I complained to the world. Why me? Feeling sorry for myself. Like, why? Right? I mean, lost my dad. Then I got Santa, which was my idol, to help me. A year later, the guy does, what else? Why? Right?
Yeah.
And I gave myself the room to think that. My wife quote me on this. I need chaos and I need tough times to be able to perform.
My man, Tony Kanaan, what's up, brother?
PT, after all these years, if you had asked me that we'll be doing a podcast together, that you're actually running the podcast and I'll be running a race team, I would have laughed at you. So
I didn't know
here we are.
ever thought
good
that,
to be
right?
here, man.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So I always start out with everybody's stats, and you've got some incredible stats. I'm going to read them out here. 2004 IndyCar champion, 17 wins, 79 podiums, 15 poles, Indy Lights champion, Rolex 24-hour Daytona winner, second at the Sebring 12-hour. I mean, that's impressive, brother.
I've been pretty fortunate, PT. Obviously, you race against me my actually entire career. And, with growing up and racing against the big names, and then we raced together in our generation with the level of the quality we had. It's, obviously, I'm pretty fortunate that I can brag about some of the titles.
Anyone who's owned a race car or a collector car knows that not all vehicle transporters are created equal. And the Race Transporter 7 from Brian James Trailers has raised the bar. Brian James Trailers is a trusted name across Europe, and they're now launching in the United States with a nationwide dealer program that's expanding quickly. From enclosed to open car haulers, equipment, dump, and flatbed and cargo trailers, the Race Transporter 7 is just one part of their premium offering. With an electronically operated rear door, a wireless winch that's safe on paintwork, a wide flatbed that fits the most oversized cars and race cars, transporting your prized possession vehicle has never been easier. Large side doors, front hatches, and low clearance ramps give full access without climbing inside. They have customizable storage, 360-degree cameras. That makes the Race Transporter 7 a fully equipped mobile garage. Discover the Race Transporter 7 and Brian James Trailers and other premium haulers and trailers at brianjamestrailers.com. Well, I want to get back to the beginning of your career. You started out young, like starting karts in Brazil. I mean, that's was the natural progression. But you started at 7, 6, 7, 8 years old?
Yeah, I was 7, but my dad actually, I started testing at 7 and racing. I was 8 because my dad had a rule that I had to match a lap time that he was going to be happy that I was competitive enough. So it took me a year to get there.
So you're racing karts. You're just a young kid, and I'm gonna go right into it heavy here. Your dad gets sick, and he passes away. And I mean, for most boys at that age, you'd be kind of a lost soul. Like how did you manage that situation? Like how did you keep racing? Who took you to racing and kept you going in that when your dad passed away?
I mean, so I was probably 10 years old on my second year in karts. So from 8 to 16, that's what I've done, only go-karts, right? And I won 6 national championships. Basically, every year that I raced, I won a championship. But around 10 years old, my dad got home one day and said, look, I need to talk to you. I got diagnosed with cancer and I have 3 months. The doctor gave me 3 months. Okay? PT, when you're 10 years old, you really don't process those type of news the way we do it today. And I was like, really? And what did you tell him? He said, I told him that he's wrong. And he lived 3 years. I was 13 when he passed. So over those 3 years, I think in a way he was kind of preparing me for the war. So we had a lot of talks about career, what I wanted it to do. And I was always very conditioned to racing. I mean, never done anything else. As a kid, when he said, you're going to go race, that's what you're going to do. You're going to go to school, straight to the track after that. That's all you're going to do. You're not going to go party. You're not going to do this. So that's all I've done. So we had a race, like every race weekend, starts Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Thursday night, I came back from school. My mom asked me to go to the hospital because my dad wanted to talk to me. And it was pretty normal for me to actually go visit him, right? It became a 3-year go back and forth. It wasn't like he's in the hospital, something's going to happen. So I sat down with him and we had a conversation. It's also a race weekend, important race, blah, blah, blah. So before I left, he said, hey, I need to ask you a couple of questions. You need to promise me if I'm not around one day, you need to take care of your mom and sister, but also you win the Indy 500 for me. So sure, Dad, come on. I didn't think anything of it. Yeah. Went home, obviously. That night he passed. And so I woke up and obviously my world was, completely torn. Mom was at home, she used to stay with him in the hospital, told me, your dad went to sleep and didn't wake up. She was pretty shook up and I was obviously sad. But then she said, but before he went to sleep, he said, for you not to forget what you guys talked. And that there, PT gave me a click. And I said, no, I remember. She didn't know. And I told her and I said, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to go to the go-kart track. So I went, somebody picked me up. I stayed at my mechanic's house that weekend. I raced that weekend. I wasn't started on the pole. I won the race. That actually, I didn't go in Brazil. Like the services funerals are much quicker than the States. You pass away same night, they do the service the next day, you're buried. So I did not go to the service, which to me, in a way, I'm not saying right or wrong, but the last image I had with my dad was a conversation that I had with him. So I think as a kid, that was less traumatizing than seeing him laying, it's just the body. So, and that's how he gave me the strength to start. And then, man, we need probably 5 hours of podcast to talk about how many people helped, right? But I think it was more of it was 90% of the people saying, you're crazy. You better go back to school. This is too expensive. You don't have your father. You don't have the money anymore. And I just refused to listen. And with school, because we had some financial issues. My dad was a very traditional Lebanese guy. So his wife back in the day, which was my mom, she didn't work. She had to actually cook him dinner and we had to sit down for dinner. Very traditional like that. So we had some financial issues with the family. We lost pretty much everything. My mom was 36 at the time, never had work her entire life, so we really couldn't find work. So we had to basically manage. And to me, I went to work in the go-kart factory in the morning, and I would go to the go-kart track in the afternoon. So I would make some salary to help home, and also get the free stuff to go race. So I did that for all my go-kart career. Took 2 buses every morning because we didn't have a car. I quit school. I was in 5th grade. Then I came back a couple of years later because my mom was like, you gotta try to get an education. So I went back, and when I was in 10th grade, so fast forward, so just managed like that, right? So basically racing and working. I got a proposal to go to Italy, which I tell you the story in a bit. Yeah. And that's when I stopped. So I haven't actually finished school yet.
Hey, it's Paul Tracy. Quick heads up for all you hardcore racing fans. Racers got a killer deal right now. Stream the best in motorsports with Racer Plus and get a full year of Racer Magazine. 6 badass collectible issues, all bundled and discounted. We're talking live WRC, Dakar, Crandon Off-Road, DTM, British Touring Cars, Le Mans, World Superbike, and even the Isle of Man TT, all in one place. Hit up racer.com/bundle and fuel up on all the best racing from around the world. That's racer.com/bundle. Well, you're doing pretty well for being not educated.
For an uneducated guy.
You're a guy that hustles and works harder than anybody that I know. And I want to say mentally strong, because to have something like that happen when you're just a kid, that the mental resilience to now only to be the man of the house, but to also provide for your mom, because I didn't know that she had financial problems after your dad died. Now you've got to provide for the house. And so you've got to make this happen. And, but you left, and I heard a story that you left and you got a proposal, like you said, to go to Italy to race cars.
Yeah.
And, your mom didn't want you to go.
Yeah. Well, so my mom, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say I did everything, but obviously I was helping quite a bit at home. I have a younger sister. She was 4 years younger. So, mom actually found a job with a couple of contacts that I had, but then we managed. So, fast forward to 1992, I just had raced a Formula Ford in Brazil with the help of Rubens Barrichello, which you know him well,
Yeah.
but if the viewers don't know who he is a big Brazilian Formula One driver. He helped me quite a bit because my dad had to help him in the beginning of his career. We had finished the season, and we was like, man, I don't have any more context funding. So I was actually at the go-kart track one afternoon teaching some kids how to go-kart. That's what I did, a little school. And back in the day, granted, PT in Brazil, we didn't have cell phones yet.
Yeah.
But the go-kart track, it's, like normal racetracks around the world, they have all these race shops around. That happens pretty common. Look at it, Indy, all the shops are here. So I was at the track, and somebody, the guy that actually used to prepare my engine, came down to the track and said, hey, you have a phone call up at our office. I'm like, I'm busy. Who is it? He goes up, it's Nelson Piquet. I'm like, yeah, right. Somebody's playing a prank on me. So Piquet was an F1 driver as well. If people don't know, I go up there, I pick up the phone, and I'm like, all right, cut it. Who is it? He says, oh, Tony, it's Nelson. I have a friend that owns a team in Italy, a Formula 3 team, and he asked me for a good Brazilian driver. So I suggested you. I said, okay. He says, well, you got to go to Italy tonight. I'm like, okay. Well, we don't have money to go home tonight, let alone travel from Brazil to Italy. So he says, well, just relaying the message. So I hung up the phone, called Ruben's dad, called a couple of friends. So there was probably 2 in the afternoon. We managed, they bought me a ticket that night. I'd go home. I said, Mom, I'm going to go to Italy to test a Formula 3. She laughed. She thought I was joking. She goes, yeah, right. No, I don't want you to go. I said, no, Mom, this is an opportunity. So I was going, it was Friday night. I was going to come back Monday. Flew all night to Italy, a 13-hour flight, landed. This guy picked me up, took me to the racetrack, says, hey, go to the hotel, sleep a little bit because I was on the plane all night. And come back and test. They were testing 5 guys. They had been testing for 2 days. I jumped in the car. At the time, there was no radio or anything. Did 7 laps. They called me in, and the guy took me out of the car. I was like, wow, I did something wrong here. But he sat down with me. It was a translator. There says, I want to hire you. I'm like, what? He says, well, you went in 7 laps. Do
you remember the guys you were up against? Like it was basically like
it was Fisichella at
right?
the time, Pacchioni, which is again, but Fisichella's probably was the biggest name
big
at the time. So I said, okay. He says, well, I am going to provide you a car the whole season, but I can't pay you anything. I said, well, then I can't stay because I don't have any money even to rent a place. And so thank you, but I'm going to go home. It's like, no, then you can leave at the race shop. We have showers or we have a bathroom. We'll put a mattress on my office. But what you got to do every morning when I come into the office at 8:00, put your mattress away and go down the shop. So call my mom. I was supposed to come back Sunday. I didn't come back home until like 6 months later and start my quest to race in Italy. So first race, I finished third, and my team owner at the time had an argument with the Italian Federation. They actually suspended him and the team from the championship. So he comes to me and says, "Hey, dream is over. I'm gonna go race in the German championship," because he could to survive, but he had a paid driver to fund the team, and I can't do anything for you, but I appreciate everything you've done for me. So what I did, I charged this guy a little bit more money. I'm gonna give you 5 races in a series called Opel Lotus Series, which it was like a leather series, right? Same cars for everybody, but the races were same weekends as the F1 race.
Yeah, kind of like an Opel car was kind of similar to an F2000 car.
It was an F2000, a little bit more power, but yeah. So I said, okay. So I get there, and first 4 races I did pretty well. I finished in the podium 3 times. My 5th race, which was my last race because we only had paid for 5, it's Hockenheim, Germany. 3 hours before the F1 race, we used to race. So qualify Saturday on the pole, sitting in the truck, in the paddock. It's remote from F1. Obviously, we're not in the same paddock. Geraldo, which you met, who used to be Ruben's manager, comes to my truck and says, "Hey, I have a credential, a paddock pass for you. Senna wants to talk to you." For people that don't know, I think you guys all know Ayrton Senna if you follow PT and the podcast. Well, but
you raced, you did a go-kart race with Senna, he made you start at the back with him.
Yeah, 3 years prior to that, I was doing go-karts. Senna built a track at his farm, and invited a bunch of F1 guys and a bunch of go-kart drivers. I had no idea where the race was. Obviously, Senna was my idol, but I never had met him, so I was completely intimidated anyway. I qualified on the pole there, and he inverted the grids before the race started. And obviously, he went from my hero to zero when he did that. But when he did that, I said, well, it's only fair if you start with me in the back then. And he did. We battled the entire race. I won the race. He finished second, and it's pretty cool that I have a picture in the podium. Yeah. That I'm first and he's second. I think a lot of people have that. So I get to brag about that quite a bit. But he had a podium. He says, "Man, you have a lot of talent. If you ever need anything from me, apart from money, don't hesitate." That was 91. Fast forward to 93, that Saturday. I go meet him at the McLaren Irony. That's where I work now.
Yeah.
He's like, "Man, you're doing pretty well, blah, blah, blah." I told him, "Yeah, well, this is my last race. The team, I'm out of money, but, I'll do my best." I said bye to him, went back to the truck. An hour later, he actually walks into my truck. And you can imagine, PT, he's walking. Like, people are just like...
Yeah, paparazzi everywhere, right?
Yeah, but even the mechanics, my team was like, what? So he's like, "Hey, who's Tony's boss?" And the guy said, "Oh, it's me. Hey, nice to meet you. I just came here to tell you one thing. You should hire this kid because he's better than me." I got a job until the end of the year, moved to Formula 3 finally the year. I moved to Alpha Boxer, which is a Formula 4, which Tatus is the guy that makes all the Formula 4 cars now. He was starting building chassis. I won the Alpha Boxer Championship, which was an Alfa Romeo engine, but we'll give you the prize money like Indy Next does it now. I get it. I got the engines for free and a prize money to move to Formula 3. That was until it was 93, 94. 95, I was doing Formula 3, finished the championship, and had a proposal to stay in it. So, granted, PT, all this time, I still lived at the race shop.
Yeah.
I actually ended up staying at the same shop I was. I had no car. I had a bicycle, and that is my passion. And our passion for cycling, that's how I actually really started it. And made probably $1,000 a month from different people that helped me out. So the end of 95, I got I finished third in the championship. Senna died in 93. I was in Imola with him. My only race that I won in Formula 3 was in Imola after they reopened the track. I got a proposal to race for Audi now in touring cars. Back in the day, you remember with Piero and Capello. I got called in their office. They're based in Monza, where I used to live. So I went to talk to the big boss of the team. And so I sat down with him. He said, we want to hire you because Piero was going to the UK to promote the Audi there and race the UK championship, the British championship that was British from. Put a contract in front of me, says, look, 2-year deal. We're going to give you a house, which I didn't have. An Audi RS6, which is my dream car until this day. And $500,000 a year. Just take the contract home. I was like, where's the pen? I'm going to sign it right now. I was making $1,000. So grabbed the contract, went home back to the shop, called Geraldo, which was the guy that was helping me out with, I'm like, just revise, but I got to bring the one before he changed his mind, man. Like, I was like, that's it.
Yeah, get it signed.
I'm a millionaire. Next day, the CEO of Philip Morris, which was your sponsor for the longest time.
Yeah.
The CEO of Philip Morris Brazil, Latin America, knew my story and said, hey, I heard your story. I heard you promise your dad that you're going to win the 500 one day. We're doing a test in Indy lights in Phoenix with 10 Brazilian drivers. We want to pick 2 to actually, we're going to fund it, a full program. And they called the Marlboro Brazilian team at the time. Remember, Emerson was your teammate. And so I said, that's cool.
I mean, obviously it was Elio, you, D'Amata. Do you remember the other drivers?
Negri, Giaffoni. I mean, it was a bunch of names.
All guys that made it to Indy cars.
Right. It eventually did, right? Yeah. So I'm like, well, that's great. Richard was his name. And I said, but it's not guaranteed. We're going to test. The 2 fastest guys, I'm like, Richard, but I don't speak English, never been to America. I have a contract for the next 2 years. I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to have a house. I will never forget. He said to me, Tony, you finally reached your adult life. You're going to have to make tough decisions. And I have to say, BT, I'm not trying to be dramatic. That was probably, I was young, but it was very tempting. I was broke. My family were broke. And so I went to bed that night and I'm like, I got to make a decision by the morning. Right. And and I'm not trying to say that I've always in my mind talked to my father, not that I asked for a sign and a light drop from the ceiling. I'm not saying that. I just, before I went to bed, I said, Dad, look, man, there is a way for you to help me out here. Just help me think and make it my mind clear what I need to do. And I woke up in the morning, obviously looking for whatever side that was. Obviously it wasn't any, but it just, at one point when it came down to okay, now I need to call this guy or this guy, I was like, you know what? I remember what I promised him. And I think that was the sign, if I have to say. And I went back and I called Richard. I said, look, I'm coming to the test, which was the next day I had to fly to Phoenix. I went back in to the boss of Audi and I thank him, which he didn't speak to me for 17 years since then, which I gave him the contract. Says, look, I am sorry. I can't accept that because I have other things. And he says, well, if it's about the money, let me do this. I'll pay $1 million a year. I'm like, you're not helping. You're definitely not helping. And I passed and took the flight from Milan to Phoenix, landed in Firebird, which you know well.
Yeah. So you must have been thinking though when you got to Firebird and saw that track. I mean, Firebird is a pretty crappy track. Having raced at Imola and Monza and places like this and F3 cars, and then you show up to race drive an Indy Lights car in this test at this little 1.2 mile track and in the middle of the desert, nothing around.
A lot of dust.
Have been thinking what is this, right?
BT, I have to say, I never had been to America before. coming from Europe, that everybody, you know how everybody dresses up like it's a party. You come here. I love America. I'm American. My kids are American. This is a lot more relaxed, but it was a shock from the airport. People were like, are they in their pajamas in the airport? Can you wear flip-flops in the airport? I mean, I'm not joking. And then you go out of the airport, there is a huge cactus that I've never had seen it in my life, dry. You know, they live there. I was like, man, where are we? And then they take me to a track that I'm expecting just, you know, it's America, man. It's the first world. They're looking like it's going to be a state of the art. It's like, it's not even building. The truck was parked with a tent. And you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And
Firebird, I mean, it's like a third world track. There's nothing. There's still nothing there. There's nothing.
I mean, honestly,
the same track is right off the freeway, and all that's there is like a little small mobile building and a tent, and it's the same way as it's always been.
Which is funny because that's when Senna actually tested Penske at that track too. So anyway, got there. I'm like, well, I guess I blew that up. You know what I mean? Like, oh. And we did the test, and the two fastest guys in that test were me and another kid that you probably don't know very well, Enio Castroneves. And we both got the job. So that was at the end of 95. So I came to America in 96 full time, lived in Columbus, Ohio for a year near the shop. Eddie and I raced 96 and 97. I finished second in 96, which you had won the Lights Championship of a couple of years before that.
Yeah.
I won the championship in 97 and moved to IndyCar in 98.
This podcast is brought to you by Racer and Racer.com, the leading motorsports news and information source in North America. With special thanks to trusted silver and gold trading partner and studio sponsor ITM Trading. Yeah, I mean, your IndyCar career went great. I mean, you were competitive right away. But you talked about your love of cycling, and I mean, you're one of the fittest guys that there is, right? So, I mean, you've done a full Ironman a couple times in Hawaii, and and I still want to get back to this mental toughness because, like you said, losing your dad early is a huge blow. Like and I'm trying to connect this, you're out trying to do an Ironman, and there had to have been times in your career when you're living hand to mouth. You're not making any money. There must have been times where you thought, what am I doing, man? That I'm going to give up on this.
Oh, PT.
There must have been times when you're trying to do an Ironman, when you're in the middle of a run or the middle of a bike ride or in the middle of a swim, and you're like, I can't do this anymore. But you keep going. Like, where do you pull that toughness from? Because doing an Ironman is probably one of the hardest things that you can do. And, I couldn't do it. There's no way I would have the mental toughness to do it. But I mean, you seem to have,
I disagree.
Very tough.
I disagree. I've known you for 3 decades now. And here's the thing. One thing that I've learned, excuse me, it's not, yes, situations you'll make you stronger. But a couple of things that I've put it in my head. Anybody can give up. That is easy. Right? But also, I didn't give myself that option. So there is no plan B. There is no giving up. Easy for me to say like that, but life gave me no choice, PT. If I didn't do that, I don't know what was going to happen, because we actually didn't really have what to eat if I didn't work. So it was a necessity and a dream. But also, I think the biggest thing that I take from all that was it's hard to explain, because like you just said this, I don't think I can do this until you got to put it on the spot. How many times we surprise ourselves? We go, oh man, that happened to him. If that would happen to me, and then you go through it, fortunately or unfortunately, so it was more of a, what did I have to lose? Right. And then didn't think about, what about if it doesn't work? What about putting all these obstacles that we do nowadays, even more with social media, people's opinion, blah, blah, blah. I didn't listen to anybody. I said, this is what's going to happen. And a lot of people ask, how did I find the strength? I didn't give myself an option. I'm not going to sit here and brag about that I was the strongest guy. I'm human. You know how many times I looked at myself and I complained to the world. Why me? Feeling sorry for myself. You know, like, why? Right? I mean, lost my dad. Then I got Santa, which was my idol, to help me. A year later, the guy does this. Oh, what else? Why? Right?
Yeah.
And I gave myself the room to think that. But then every time that happened, I was able somehow to actually turn that and feel that to a motivation more than anything. So that to a point that today I need, my wife quote me on this, I need chaos and I need tough times to be able to perform. That's the way I was conditioned. I was, my career, managing a racing lead for me was more difficult than starting 10th and trying passing 6 cars on the start. So that's the way it was. And then I think to answer your question, how did I train? I think it was life just put me there, and I was able to actually capitalize and think about knowing my limitations, giving myself the room to feel sorry for myself, but at the same time, say enough, DK, now we're going, and use that as a fuel. So I did that to actually train my mind to, like, when we're in a race and you're 2 laps down, but especially in IndyCar, the way we go to a 500-mile race, how many races you're a lap down and you recover and you ended up winning, right? So to train my mind not to give up. So doing the 12-hour Ironman, which professionals doing half of that, made me humble, but also like, what is a 2.5-hour IndyCar race when I did a 12-hour? I was suffering, like just die.
You also did a lot of local. I mean, I saw back in the day,
the
you
short
did a lot
ones,
of
I did
Miami
15,
short ones, 70s, and
15,
shorter
70.3s.
Yeah.
A bunch of local races, but that I enjoyed, right? Those are fast races and kept me motivated to also train. But it was always to really train my mind. I think I've been, by life circumstances, since, let's face it, at 13, basically my life started all over again.
How did you, like, you're racing through all of this? How did you, I mean, it's so busy. The racing schedule back then for us, we raced in those days, we didn't
22 races.
We didn't stop in September. You went all the way up to, we used to go to November. And
so
the Ironman is like literally 2 weeks after, was right after the season ended. So how did you find the time to be racing and getting that much training in, and how much training a week did you have to do? Like, how many hours a week were you on the bike? How many hours swimming, running?
So I did actually the first Ironman I did in between races. So I raced in Kentucky, flew to Hawaii, raced the Ironman, and I raced the last race in Texas. The other one was after the season. So that took a whole team. You remember that because you had the same. I had a physio, I had a nutritionist. They actually followed my entire career. People said always, "Oh, you have an entourage," but I did everything I could to perform well in the race course. So if it was one thing that I had that I had to worry about, if I had to have a person there, it was going to be there. All I worry about is to work with my engineer to win races. And so we create a system that it's possible. Now, it is possible to do it in 8 hours doing what I did for a living. Probably not. It was doable to do in 10 to 12. So basically, PT, the race weekends, you remember this, we had, trainers in our bus. I always rode an hour after the day was over, really easy. That was just to keep your body moving. Then my heavy days were Monday, which is my recovery days from the race. But at some point, you get fit, that because you were fit. I was so fit that the race car actually, I would get tired, but I would have time to sleep and wake up the next morning and be recovered on Monday. So Monday, Tuesday. So I used to try to do between 8 to 12 hours per weekend, per week. But remember, it was a little bit different at the time. We had the split between kart and IndyCar. You stayed and you won your championship there. I moved. Ovals over a little bit easier. I don't think I would have done as much training if you're doing the road courses. The year that I did was only ovals in 11, and 23 the year that I retired, I only did Indy, right?
Yeah.
So I had more time. But I just and it was the discipline, right, PT? You know that well enough. I throughout my entire career, I went from being single to have 4 kids, and I never really changed my lifestyle. I just changed my hours. I used to wake up at 8:00. Now I wake up at 4:30.
I see you on the treadmill at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, because at 7 I gotta be ready to go to work. But at 6 the kids wake up and get them ready. So it's not finding the excuse in your own mind, not to anybody else. And I'm not trying to prove a point. Oh, you got to do this. Some people choose not to, but that's how I'm conditioned. I've been retired for 3 years, and I'm still working now. Like I'm gonna jump in the car tomorrow, which doesn't have my case. By running the team, I've been the reserve driver for Kyle Larson for the last 2 years, probably because of that too, right? Because it's people know I'm still fit. So it's a way of
you stay ready. You stay ready to go. Like if something happens, you're ready to go, right?
But you know, I'm not actually anymore, PT. I'm pretty much in peace. I'm ready to go. What we did a couple of years ago, that we had a lot of fun with the SRX, drive a race car. I think you know how hard it is to just come back like that. And I had an awesome career, so I'm in peace with my decision.
So, I mean, we talked about how mentally strong and mentally tough you have been through your career because of everything you've had to go through. You see the kids now that are coming up, these kids that, okay, they have rich dads. You didn't have a dad, but they have, you see kids at the go-kart track and they've got a semi truck and 10 go-karts in there, and then everything's paid for, and mechanics. Are these the kids you see coming up now? Are they as mentally tough as what it would take to be successful as it was for you?
I think it's different, BT, because it's a different generation. You have kids and you're on there old enough now that they're a different generation. I think to answer your question, because it's different, yes, I think you can be talented. I think it's really important as a parent what standards you set as well, because we do have a tendency to spoil our kids. It doesn't matter who it is. Like we're not saying, and especially if you can give your kids the best equipment and you have the means, why not? My dad was doing that. Until he passed, then I had to figure out. But would I have become one of those kids? I would never know the answer. But I think depending how you put to the kid and how you get the kid gets managed, yes, it's possible. Now, what happens quite a bit, it's unintentionally or intentionally, these kids ended up being spoiled because they don't really fight a lot for it. They got it, but there's plenty of examples.
I see, I'm not going to name names, but there's been a few F1 driver, young drivers, 20, 21, 22 years old. Things weren't going well. They got let go from the team and they just quit. And it's, I'm just going to go work in my family business instead.
Which PT, even you, like you don't come from a wealthy family as well. Like if we quit, we had to find a job, right? Hopefully we were successful with it. We didn't have that option. So that there, sometimes if you don't manage well, it is because it's a default. It's human, right? It's like, well, we didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. It's like, is either that or I don't know. Maybe I'm going to work collecting garbage. I don't know. I knew I was going to work, but it was a life decision that was going to change my entire life. Probably I wouldn't have where to live. And it wasn't like, well, it didn't work. But I go back to my dad's mansion. I'm 17. I'm going to get a Ferrari and a Rolex, and I'm going to go have fun.
Go to the clubs.
Right. And that, again, who am I to judge that? That is one of the reasons that I never actually ask any of my kids if they want to race. They actually never asked me either, so I didn't push. They didn't ask, because I think I would probably become the same, or I was going to have to say, When I call, hey, PT, can you take care of my kids? I'm going to pay you because I need
Oh,
to be out of it because it's easy to do. So,
it's
you know,
expensive too. For the
yeah, there's no way I would never do that to my kids. I'm not. I would help them, but I nowadays, can you imagine like what our parents did? If your parents helped me too, like I would never have done that. Like I said, you guys are crazy to spend all the money that we had. It's and that I think it does that plays a difference. Uh, yes and no. I mean, just a lot of the examples. That anybody has to go through what I've been through to become a successful race car driver or an athlete? I don't think so. I think just the obsession is in the person, but also who they have around them to be able to build. And we all have a tendency, if it's your kid, to actually baby the kid for some reason. I truly believe as a parent of an athlete like you are, you definitely push your kids different. I have no doubt. I'm not saying other parents don't, but we know what. So we do it maybe a little bit less. But yeah, I think it's possible. But coincidence or not, people there went through in a very hard way. 90% of these kids, they succeed.
Yeah. So are your kids are they into driving the sim? Because you're very involved in sim racing. You have a sim studio, you're involved with companies that produce sim equipment, steering wheels and rigs and everything. You're really one. I'm not a sim guy. I have a sim, but I suck at it.
No, me
But
too.
you're very, very involved in it. And I mean, you're doing 24-hour races on your spare time. Do your kids do they get on there too, or?
So they do, but for fun. I think the kids enjoy a little bit, but they take it more of a video game that actually a sim. Um, I'm there with it. I just have good people around me, and they make me look good. Because I think we're such an old school. You see these young kids, they're like Verstappen. It's a phenomenon everywhere. But he grew up on the sim. We just don't. We're the old guys that are like, this is not the same. And well, how come he can go that fast? But the kids do. But they don't actually never have three boys and a girl. We went go karting, like indoor karting, but they
Yeah.
actually didn't never really asked the way I asked my dad. Now, could I actually take them to a racetrack every weekend when I'm off and put them in a go kart and make them and incentivize that? Probably I could, but they play a lot of sports. They're very competitive. They're all very athletic. PT, there's like these kids. I mean, my oldest, it's gonna be 18 next month, but all of them at some point in their lives, and the three little ones, they still live with us. They wake up in the morning, they came out of their room, they're gonna go find me. I'm at the gym, either on a bike, on a treadmill, or lift. So their entire life, they grew up doing that, which see me doing that, which to a point, then now that's what they do. They want to wake up 20 minutes early. They're little, so they can't live with it, and they want to work out with me.
Yeah.
And that becomes something that is their normal. So they're very athletic. They play all sports. I can't play anything. They play every sports with their mother because I'm terrible with everything else. I only did racing. So still live a competitive life. They all want to beat me in anything we do. But I'm not. I never really, give them an opportunity or
So
force it.
you have a lot of time on super expensive Honda, Chevy sims. You've spent a lot of time in the big multi-million-dollar sims, and you have a lot of time in the consumer
Thousands.
consumer home sims. Can you Are they comparable? Like, tell me, because I've told a lot of drivers that I've had on the show, I've never driven one of the super expensive, IndyCar Formula One sims. I've driven home sims and some work better than others, but is there a big difference between the two?
Well, I mean, it is because look, to learn, no. Like if you want to learn a racetrack, if I put you on my sim or on the IndyCar sim, you're gonna learn the track. Now, the IndyCar sim, that is the top, the halo, the windscreen, you sit in your seat. It's a big screen. So it feels like more of a race car. But we're not anywhere near PT to say, all right, I'm gonna bring you back next year. I'm gonna hire you. You're only gonna test on the sim, and every change you're gonna make is gonna correlate to the racetrack. That is not. You can learn a racetrack because they're very accurate. You can learn like saving fuel, the technique. You can learn ride height and gears. And probably for a lot of people that are listening that never driven a race car, they're not going to understand, but you will. Race car drivers feel everything in their butts, right? Because we're sitting down. And the sim does not give you that. The motion is not accurate. When wheel spins, it doesn't give you that slide that you're expecting. When it loads, you don't feel. So it's not the same. But that's fine, because I think what mistake people make is thinking that the sim is going to replace test at the racetrack. To me, we can have a whole nother podcast about how much I think we lived. We just talk about fiber days. How many days you spend there in fiber west on a wet and come back and go to the. We spent the whole week testing tires in Sebring when there was the tire war. These kids nowadays, we have one test. Lundgaard came to the team, did one test with us, went straight to St. Pete. Does a ton of simulator. I had teammates, PT, you know how terrible we both are on the sim, that we went to the real sim and they're a second and a half quicker than me in Detroit. When we get to the track, I was half a second quicker than them on the real life. So a lot of things you can understand, and you need to be smart about what to extract. But to think that it's going to replace the race car, I truly don't think we're both going to be alive to see that.
Well, I mean, in the next 5 years, I mean, with technology, I mean, obviously there's something still missing. The feel of the road is missing, but I mean, you as a team manager now, do you guys base your setups around sim? Can you see in the future engineers going away? Maybe there's an AI engineer. You go to the sim and you do all this stuff, and the AI engineer says, put this spring, that toe, that camera. Could you ever see that happening?
I'm old school. I still believe that it correlates a lot. I don't see a replacement. I see like they're working together. I still believe a day at the racetrack, it's going to be more valuable. But to give you an example, the only way I believe, if we can make a very successful, good race car driver that is smart enough to be an engineer at the same time and can correlate both, because that is the issue. An engineer never really driven as much as we did at IndyCar. So he's trying to go on our feedback, but also they're trying to make the motion is a damper, right? To simulate the shock frequency and the racetrack. And now they can get close. But then like I ask you a question, when we go to a track, let's go to Road America. Are all the corners the same temperature and track temp?
No, I mean, change.
How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Right? Tire wear. You can, but like, how are you going to do that? So there are things that, how are you going to see what's going to be, what the weather's going to be? 90, 85? Where you're going to test in all of them to be able to, there's so many variables in real life that they're so unpredictable that you can't really do that.
Yeah. I mean, especially at Indy, I mean, the track temperature in every corner is different. And if a cloud comes by, it changes 10 degrees immediately.
Exactly. Like, okay, we're gonna qualify in Indy, but we probably can guess the weather. But the weather changes a little bit and it's 10 degrees cooler. Or how are you gonna predict the wind that day? How many times, PT, you're at the middle of your lap, you got a wind gust out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not gonna be black and white.
Yeah. So, I mean, your career has been incredible. You've made it happen from nothing. You kept pushing and pushing. And, I mean, it's great to know that, you're one of my good friends in IndyCar. We had some problems. I gave you the chrome horn a couple of times.
PT, I never had a problem with you. You always had a problem with me. I mean, I'm joking. That's rough racing. I have to say, I as much as we had it, I
punted you good one time in Vancouver, though.
That was my first podium. You should be heartbroken now that we're both old men. That was going to be my first podium of my career in IndyCar, and you just puffed my tire and under the yellow flag, and then but you got a penalty too, so I guess.
Yeah. If you like this show, hit the like and subscribe button at the bottom. And drop us a comment if you want any guests, special guests. Let us know who you want, and we'll try to get them on. Well, we're running out of time here, Tony. It was great talking to you, but we got to show the people out there. Where's the gorilla? Give me the gorilla.
The gorilla is right here. And actually, this one, I've always loved gorillas. I wanted to have a real one. Obviously not possible. And then when I won the 500, I put the gorilla in the board corner with the car number that I won in my arm. So but the gorilla is pretty famous. My kids love it.
Make him
Don't
dance.
do that.
Make him dance. There you go. Thanks, brother.
BT, thanks, man. Pleasure. Nice to see you.
Okay, good to see you.